Hey, good people, you're here with Dr. Oliver T. Reid, the relationship architect. Hope you're doing something wonderful today, doing something that will improve you today, doing something that makes your life worthwhile today, and that you are implementing the things you learn, the lessons that you learn in life. It's so important. Well, I'm here again. I've been telling you, I've been talking about my 6 ways to examine relationships from the inside out. And by this time, you've already gotten the first way, digging in the open. That was a phenomenal concept if you can embrace it. Now we're going to move into something I like to call error messages. Error messages. Let's just talk about that for a minute, because a lot of times when you put in things the wrong way, you'll get an error message. You'll get a sign. You'll get a symbol. You'll get a sound, or you'll get something that reinforces that you are not doing things the right way. And a lot of times in relationship, we are totally oblivious of whether or not we are hearing the sound and we're seeing the error messages, or we're seeing the things that say, stop, don't do it, try it another way, because we've been doing it for so long. And let me just talk about that. Is that a lot of times we in relationships, men, women, are in relationships where we don't want to change, we don't want to evolve, we want things to stay the same because we are so used to and accustomed to doing things a certain way. Even at our own detriment, even if it causes us bumps and bruises and heartaches and failures and rejections, we still want to do things our way. It is innate as human beings to be selfish, to be self-centered, to be self-focused. And I'm going to challenge those on the other side of this video, along with myself, as I'm giving this information out. I have to also practice what I preach, to not be selfish in your relationship. It's called a relationship for the purpose that you have to relate. It's called a relationship because you're supposed to be relating. And so that means you have to give up something. So we're going to be talking about this thing. I like to call it, in my 6 ways, error messages. Error messages. Those are the things that you have to watch out for when engaging in your relationship. It is so imperative that we do that. For example, how we say something is just as powerful as what we say. Let me say that again. How we are conveying the messages, how what we're saying is being delivered is just as important as the content of that message. A lot of times we turn people on and off simply because of the way we say things, the way we do things, the way we act. So let me just give you a scenario. When you're talking and you're engaging in a relationship, you have to measure the thermostat of that environment and make sure you're not too heated or too heavy or too straightforward in certain things. You have to make sure that you're not getting the message from the person on the receiving end that it's not comparable to the results that you want to get. All right. First thing I want to say is, in looking at error messages, you got to understand your purpose in delivering that message. Number 1, understand the purpose in which you are communicating this message to your partner. What is the end goal, the end result that you're trying to do? And if you're examining that, you have to watch and see when you deliver that message that it's not causing an error based on communication styles, based on how you are relating that, and based on how your tone and diction is. So a lot of times it's body language. A lot of times we'll turn people off. It's not what you're saying to me. I get it all the time. You know, they say relationship architect is not what he's saying. It's how he's saying it. And as brothers, let's run a gut check. A lot of times we are very forceful with our words. We get heated. And let me go on the other side, ladies. A lot of times you are very, sometimes can be very condescending in certain situations when there's a heated argument or the way you say things. So we have to run a gut check on how we say the things to the other partner. Now, you can sit back and say, I don't really care. They're going to just take it or leave it. And how's that working for you? I'll just ask that. If you want a healthy relationship, it's going to be compromised. So 1, you have to be able to focus. You have to be able to look at why and the message and what you want to achieve. 2nd, how you want to say it. Just a simple phrase can be reworded, can be restructured to fit the needs of what you want, and it also gives the partner what they want. For example, you have to sit back and talk to each other and say, hey, how do you like me to communicate? See, if we're going to have a date, or going to have some time together, or we're going to have this bonding moment, we need to understand how you like to communicate. let me go back to communication styles. I said something that was very, very important earlier, is that figuring out the communication style of your partner is so important. Is their communication style one that likes to talk in the morning, one that likes to talk in the evening? Is it a communication style where they love to have dialogue instead of just straightforward commands? Is their relationship style that they like to type out things, or they like to receive emails to keep them updated with an appointment that you may have? Or is it verbal conversation? Or is it a text? Or is it getting on the phone? So we live in a day and time where we base our communication on what we want. Again, I go back to that. If it's good to me, it must be good to him or good to her. But that's not great. It's almost like it's almost like being at that family reunion where Aunt Betty thinks her cake is the best thing since sliced bread, when everybody else is behind her like, no, don't eat it. And then when she turns her head, they're like, hey, because it's good to her doesn't mean it's good to everybody else. Right? So you have to understand that your communication from your standpoint may be good. You feel like you're being a clear communicator. You are basically giving off what you need to give off, but you have to run a gut check with your partner to ask that person how they're receiving the energy, receiving the message. Go back to that key word I just said. Wow, that was good. The energy. If there's negative energy in what you're saying, you will project it off. And it will be on the other end, that person will start receiving that negative energy and can just taint your message just by your attitude or the way you are delivering it. All right. Now, you cannot, I always go back and say, you cannot help. I hear you on the other end saying you cannot help the way that person perceives it. Yes, but you can also ask them how they want to perceive it. And the reason you want to do that's my third question. Ask the person how they want, on my third point, how they want to receive this information. Because then they are held accountable when they answer you. They're held accountable for the way that they responded to your question and answered it and said, I like to be communicated like this. I like for you to keep an even tone with me, for example. I like for you to not shout, not scream, not yell, but talk to me and not at me. Don't talk in the third person. Don't assume, right? So when you ask me that and I give that information back to you, and you do that, then I no longer can say, oh, you didn't ask me. And, if you deliver it in that way, I can't say that I didn't say that. So it holds me accountable on the other end as the receptor, right? And it helps you as the receiver or the giver to be able to say, this is how I like to communicate. Another thing is, you have to also be able to check that temperature, because sometimes it's not what you say, is how you say it, and the consistency of knowing your partner. If it's irritating him or her, if your body tenses up, if it's one of those things where they totally check out, their eye contact is not there. Let me go back to eye contact. Making eye contact is so important. I think I'll make that number 4. Make eye contact, because a lot of times we are sitting there and we're hiding behind our frames and our lenses and how we perceive things, and we're just saying stuff like, whatever, I don't care, this is what you need to do, you always do that, blah, 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 da, 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 da. We're not making eye contact a lot of times with our mates, with our companions, with our significant others. We're talking around them, or we're sending a lot of things through text and not having that time to really sit down, look each other dead in the eye, and communicate their feelings, your feelings, and get their feelings on the other end. So now you have these error messages. It's like the empty text that you send out of the blue. It's like you send that text out of the blue and you just, here it is, and I'm going to put it out there like it is, and there's no explanation. Ooh, y'all catch that? There's no explanation. If you bring up a topic, you should be willing to explain, and it should be a conversation that each of you allows each other to be able to talk it out and be able to talk in a non-judgmental zone. That's number 4. Be able to talk and communicate in a non-judgmental zone. What I mean by that, I don't have to agree. I don't have to co-sign on how you feel. I don't have to endorse how you feel, but it is my responsibility in being in a relationship. If I'm calling myself to be in a relationship, if I'm saying I'm going to be in a relationship, if I'm saying that this is all about the relationship and I'm invested in the relationship, I have a right, a duty, an obligation, a responsibility to listen, to hear what you're saying, right? Hear, think, listen clearly, get the point to me, right? I've studied, and in my study, I found some very in-depth things about communication and listening. There's an activity that I do a lot of times as an icebreaker when I coach, when I mentor, when I deal with people. It's a communication activity because I found out in research that we as human beings hear at a faster rate than we speak. Let me say that again. We hear at a faster rate than we speak. So what does that mean, the relationship architect? What does that mean? That means that a lot of times there's a lot of dead space. So for example, if me and you on the other side of this video was in a conversation, you are hearing me faster than I'm speaking. And so a lot of times there's some dead space and you're saying, get to the point already. There's a lot of people who have already clicked away from this video because it didn't hold their attention, because they didn't hear the process, and there's some valuable nuggets that they could use later on. But because they hear at a faster rate than they speak, there's a lot of dead space. So if I'm on a line with you, on a phone call line, I'm talking and you're doing something, so a lot of times you may be tuned out and saying, hey, get to the point, Oliver.